Hey everyone, this is Hafizullah Masoudi and you're watching from Code with Hafiz. So I welcome you to the 15th video of the CSS series where we will discuss CSS navigation bars. So having easy to use navigation bars is important for any website, and with CSS you can transform any boring HTML menus into good looking navigation bars. So to show you an example, let's create a UL here first, and it will hold some LIs which will have some anchor tag. So let's say for now for the href a hash, and for this one let's say home. Now we can duplicate it. The next one let's say news, and the next one let's say contact for example, and the final one let's say about. So this should be about, like this. Now let's get back to the browser and check our code how it looks. So now you can see we have a nice list items. So now what we will do is we will remove these bullets and also the padding and the margin. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and to do this we can target the UL and curly braces, and for this one let's say list style a type and it should be none, and then we can declare the margin 0 and then the padding 0, like this. So if we save this, get back to the browser, refresh, now you can see there are no bullets and no margin and padding. So this code that we have written so far to create a navigation bar can be used in both vertical and horizontal navigation bars. So let's first show you the vertical one. So to build the vertical navigation bar, you can style the elements inside the list. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and in here now we can target the anchor tags. So let's say li space anchor tag and curly braces, and for this one let's say display block, like this. And after display block for the list items, let's also declare a background color. So let's say background color, and let's say hash triple D, like this. So if we save this and get back to the browser now, so let's refresh, now you can see we have these elements. So for now you can see it is taking the full width. So if we declare the width for this one, so let's say width here, and let's say for example 200 px. So if we save this and get back to the browser, refresh, now you can see it is having 200 px width. Now we can declare the width for the each of the list item also, but because it is a good practice to declare it in the UL, and because the UL is the parent element, so all the child elements will inherit the same value of the width. So let's make some minor changes to this one. So for this one, or for the UL, let's declare a background color. So let's say hash f1 f1 f1, like this. And now what we can do is we can remove this background color from here, and instead what we will do is we will declare a color for it. So let's say hash 000, and let's declare some padding. So it will be 8px for the top and bottom, and let's say 16px for the left and right. And we also want some text decoration, so it will be text decoration, and for this one we want none, so to remove the underline. And to declare some hover effect, we can target the list items. So let's say li a colon hover, and let's say curly braces, and let's declare some background color of hash 555, and let's say the color should be white, like this. So if we save this and refresh the browser, now you can see we have a nice navigation bar. So to declare the active one, what we can do is let's get back to the Visual Studio Code, and let's first declare the active class in here. So let's say dot active and curly braces, and for this one let's say background color should be hash, and let's say 04AA6D, like this. And let's also declare some color for it, so it will be white, like this. Now we have to assign this one to one of the list items. So let's suppose for the home we want to declare a class which will be active. So if we save this and get back to the browser, refresh, now you can see we have a nice active class. So you can also notice that whenever we hover over the active element, it is also hovering. So to prevent this, we can exclude the hover effect from the element that is active. So to do this, for this hover we can declare another property. So let's say colon, and let's say not, and we want to remove the dot active class. So if we save this now, refresh, so now you can see these are being hovered, but this one is not. Now we can center the links and add borders to the links also. So to show you this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and what we can do is for the UL we can declare a border. So let's say border here, and let's say 1px solid, and let's say hash 555 like this. And for the li, well, we don't have the li, so let's say li curly braces, and let's say text align. We want this one to be center, and let's declare a bottom for this one. So it will be 1px solid and hash 555 like this. Now because we have declared the border for the UL, so it will wrap the entire UL, and we have declared the border bottom for each of the li. So this will mean that at the very bottom for the last child we will have two border of bottoms, one from the UL and one from the li. So to show you, let's get back to the browser, refresh. So you can see this last element is having two border of bottoms. So to prevent this, we can target the last child. So in here let's say li colon last child, and for this one we can declare the border bottom none like this. So let's say for the value none, and now it will have a single border of bottom. So if we refresh, now you can see it is looking much better. Now let's create a fixed full height side navbar. So to show you this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and first of all let's create the HTML elements. So after the UL, let's create a div, and we want to give it some styling. So let's declare some margin left for this one, which will be 25%, and let's also declare some padding for it. So it will be 1px for the top and bottom, and 16px for the right and left. And let's also give it some height of 1000 pixels like this. And inside the div, let's create an h2. So let's say some header like this, and let's create a paragraph, and let's put some lorem ipsum like this. Now let's get back to our style stack. So for the UL, well, before the UL, let's declare some margin for the body. So let's say body curly braces, and let's say margin should be 0 to remove all the extra margin from the body. And for the UL, what we have is the list style type. It is alright margin, padding, and width. Well, instead of 200px, we can declare it 25% like this. And for the background color, it is alright, and we don't need the border, so let's remove it. But instead of border, we can declare a position. So instead of inherit, let's say it should be fixed, and now we can declare some height for it. So let's say 100%, and let's say overflow should be auto like this. So now if we get back to the browser and refresh, now you can see we have a nice sidebar, and the content is also showing alright. Now we have forgot to remove these borders, so let's remove it for you to see this better. Well, we can remove this entire li code like this. So now if we refresh it, now you can see it is looking much better. So you can see it is a fixed sidebar. So when we scroll, it is only scrolling the page content, so not the navbar. Now this was all for the vertical navigation bars. Now next up what we have is the horizontal navigation bar. So there are two ways to create a horizontal navigation bar. The first one is using inline, and the second one is using floating list items. So first let's show you the inline, and then I will show you the floating list items. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and what we can do is, well, we can comment this div for now like this, and in here, well, we need this code for now. What I will do is I will comment some of this. So let's leave the body, but let's comment this code, and let's leave the UL. Well, let's comment the UL also. So we will just now target the li to show you the inline property. So in here, let's say li and curly braces, and for this one let's say display inline like this. So if I save this, get back to the browser, refresh, now you can see we have inline list items. Now we have some extra padding and margin, so let's remove that one too. So for this UL, what we can do is we can uncomment this code now. So let's uncomment it and bring it in here like this. So we need the list style type none and margin and padding 0, and that's all. So let's remove the other code like this, and now if we refresh the browser, now you can see we don't have extra padding and margin. Now next thing is using float list items. So instead of display inline, what we can do is let's comment this, and this time let's say float, and we want it to be left. So if I save this and refresh the browser, now you can see it is also still inline. Now let's add some more styling to these list items to look like a navigation bar. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code. Now what we will do is for the UL, let's declare some overflow. So it will be hidden, and let's declare a background color. So let's say hash 333 like this, and for the li float is alright. So now what we will do is we will uncomment this code. So let's uncomment it, and for the li and anchor tag, display block is alright, and for the color instead of zeros let's say white, and for the text align, well, let's declare a text align here, so it will be center, and for the padding instead of 8 let's say 14px and 16px for the right and left, and for the text decoration none is alright. So for the active class it is also alright, but for the hover what I will do is I will remove the color like this, and instead of 555 for the background color, let's say hash 111 like this. So if we save this now and get back to the browser, refresh, now you can see we have a nice horizontal navigation bar. So if we hover over it, you can see it is working, and you can see that the active one is also working, and when we hover over it, because it is active, so it's not taking the effect of hover effect. Now if you want to align an item to the right, you can do that too. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code. So suppose we want to align this about to the right. So for the li, let's declare an inline style. So for this one let's say just float, and we will float it to the right like this. Well, this should be right like this. So let's save it and refresh. Now you can see about is at the right. Now next up what we have is a fixed navigation bar. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and now what I will do is I will uncomment this div, and instead of margin left, let's declare some margin of a top for this one, and for this one let's say 30px like this. Well, we don't need the padding, or let's just leave it. Now for the paragraph, let's duplicate it a couple of times to create a scrolling to show you how a fixed navigation bar works. So let's duplicate it a couple of times like this, and now if we refresh the browser, so now you can see we have a scrolling. So you can see when I scroll down, our navbar is getting disappeared. So what I will do is I will fix it to the top, so whenever we scroll down it should always be at the top. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and what we can do is for the UL we can declare a position. So for this one let's say position, and this should be fixed like this, and let's say top should be 0, and we also want to declare a width now which will be 100%. Because we have declared the position fixed, so it will not take the full width, so we need to declare it manually like this. So now if we refresh, so this is our header, and if we scroll now you can see the navigation bar is not moving and it is fixed to the top. So if you wanna fix it to the bottom, you can do that too. So instead of top 0, what we can do is we can declare bottom 0 like this. So if I refresh now you can see it is at the bottom. Now note that fixed position might not work properly on mobile devices, so keep that in mind. Now the next thing that I want to show you is how to create a sticky navbar. So to show you an example of this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and in here let's scroll down, because before our navbar we will create some data here. So let's say an h1 here, and let's say some heading like this, and now instead of position fixed, what we will do is for this one, let's say sticky like this, and now we can remove the width, and instead of bottom, let's say top should be 0, and we also want to declare this position for the WebKit, so let's duplicate it and let's say dash WebKit and dash sticky like this. So now if we save this and get back to the browser and let's refresh, so you can see we have this heading here, and now watch when I scroll to the very top, and whenever the navigation bar reaches the top, it will stick to the top. So now you can see it has been fixed. So this is a sticky navbar example. Now note that Internet Explorer do not support sticky positioning, and Safari requires a WebKit prefix as shown in the example. So you must also specify at least one of the top, right, bottom or left properties for sticky positioning to work. Now this was all for the navigation bars, so I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If so, don't forget to give the thumbs up and a nice comment too. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe too if you want more videos like this. So thanks for watching. See ya in the next video.